And I think that the pressure that our teens are under because of social media to always be connected. And I think about when I was a kid and, I went to school during the day and I was connected and glued in and you had all the whatever, the drama and your friends and all that stuff. And then you went home, you got on the bus and you went home and you kind of disconnected outside of maybe getting on the telephone and calling a friend and two-way calling, so you'd be on the phone with your girlfriend and someone would call for your dad and you had to get off the phone. And but the beauty in that was teenagers were able to disconnect. And so whenever relationships were kind of strained maybe at school, whenever they went home for the night and they kind of disconnected, and things kind of cooled off and chilled out, and they were able to go to school the next day maybe a little fresher, and what was such a big deal at 2:30 the day before is not such a big deal at 7:30 the next morning.
All right. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Parenting Teens Today. I'm your host, Adam Episcopo. And today, we are very lucky to have one of the best educational leaders in the state of Kentucky. He is the Breckinridge County School Superintendent. He was recently announced the 2025 Kentucky Superintendent of the Year. He's a father. He's a husband. The one and only Dr. Nick Carter. Nick, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's awesome to be on.
Yes, sir. Well, let's just dive right into this. So you're obviously, you went through all the different ranks. You were a teacher, you were a principal, now you're the superintendent. I guess just kind of give me the backstory of how you got into this. Was being in the education system always the dream? Just kind of your history and how you got started with all this.
Sure. I'm pretty fortunate. In seventh grade, I knew I wanted to be a teacher, and trying to figure out exactly what content area, and it was a little bit there, but um, I was very fortunate though, because I know a lot of folks, they don't, they struggle to know what do you want to do when you grow up and things like that. But I grew up in a working class family, sawmill operation, working in the sawmill, and family business. And from an early age, though, I really felt the pull to be a teacher. Excuse me. And I think it was because I met so many great people in education when I was a kid. I remember my bus drivers. I remember my lunchroom ladies, my teachers. And yes, I probably was one of those. I was one of those kids that was sitting that always had a desk next to the teacher's desk, and the whole time I thought it's because they loved me. And then I become a teacher and I realized, wait a minute, now I know why I was sitting there. Maybe I like to talk too much. But all jokes aside, I really think that that's what drew me to education, is that as a young child, I met so many good people working in schools. And those that was just something that I was drawn to and wanted to be. I never, ever thought about being a principal, never thought about being a superintendent. I wanted to teach, I wanted to coach some ball, and I joke around with my wife all the time. I tell her, "Say you married a teacher and a coach and end up being a high school principal's wife and a superintendent's wife. Boy, did I fool you." But yeah, but it's just whenever I got into teaching, I loved it. I loved everything about teaching. Kids are great, and I taught at the high school level. Loved being with teenagers. You know, Teenagers kind of they get a bad rap. But all of us got a bad rap when we were teenagers. That's a hard time in our lives. We're trying to figure things out, and it's a time of great change going on in our life. So anyway, I got into teaching, loved every minute of it, but I started working on some graduate courses, and I had to get a master's degree in something, so I chose the principalship, and I started taking the classes. Really started to think differently about the education world, more around the educational administration side. Fell in love with it, and I thought, man, it'd be really cool to be a principal. And I was very lucky to get to be a principal, and I loved it. I said, this is all I ever want to do. I want to be a principal. And then I needed to do a few more classes, and I decided to do it in the superintendency. Thought, it'd be really neat to learn about the district side of things. Started taking the superintendent courses. Fell in love with the superintendency, and so I've been in this role now for this is my ninth year. Before that, I was our high school principal for 7 years. So I've spent a lot of time in the educational administration world, seen a lot of things, seen a lot of weather events, whether it be snow or hurricane force winds. Yes, even in Kentucky, we have hurricane force winds from time to time. Lived through a pandemic and what that was like, and and seen a lot of great change. But the one thing that has remained the same throughout my entire 20, whatever, 20 and a half, 21 years in education is kids are good. Kids are great, and they amaze me every single day at what they're capable of, how they're able to persevere, and and the other thing that I love as part of my job is I love being able to help parents. And I am a parent. I have an 18-year-old daughter who just started her first year of college, and I have a 12-year-old daughter who's in seventh grade. So I can relate to the challenges of parenting in 2025, and I think we're all trying to do the best we possibly can.
That's
So
beautiful.
that's my story. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's amazing. You've clearly had seen a lot of different faces walk through your doors over the course of the years here, and being a father yourself, so you're a parent, you understand. And you mentioned the pandemic. That was such an interesting time and a difficult time for teens and just kids in general. I mean, having to learn through Zooms, it was just a mess and really created a lot of different ongoing issues that maybe under the surface we don't even really see yet. And so I wanted to ask you, I wanted to get your opinion on what would you consider the biggest concern that you see teenagers facing today, issues that the biggest issue, I guess, that they're facing. I know the phones are a big thing, and I know that certain
Yeah.
schools have done a lot to try to and instill like yonder pouches or different things like that to put the phone away in school. But outside of that, what in the phone in general, what would you say is the biggest issue you see teens facing today in your school?
Two issues. The first, and it's connected to the phones. It's social media, and I know when we talk about the phone, we're talking about social media,
Of course.
and I think that the pressure that our teens are under because of social media to always be connected. And I think about when I was a kid, and I went to school during the day, and I was connected and glued in, and you had all the whatever, the drama and your friends and all that stuff, and then you went home, you got on the bus and you went home and you kind of disconnected outside of maybe getting on the telephone and calling a friend and, two-way calling. So, you'd be on the phone with your girlfriend and someone would call for your dad and you had to get off the phone. But the beauty in that was teenagers were able to disconnect. And so whenever relationships were kind of strained, maybe at school, whenever they went home for the night and they kind of disconnected and things kind of cooled off and chilled out, and they were able to go to school the next day maybe a little fresher, and what was such a big deal at 2:30 the day before is not such a big deal at 7:30 the next morning. Social media now has our teenagers, and there's so much pressure to stay glued in and stay connected, and I've got to check Snap, I've got to check Instagram, whatever it may be. My daughters will probably make fun of me for saying Instagram because I'm sure that's not the preferred platform now. But my point, you get my point. It's
Yeah.
this pressure to stay connected, and I think that is having a severe impact on our teenagers' emotional health, not just on friends, but you think about our teenage the relationships, boyfriend girlfriend, and look. There's going to be boyfriend girlfriends situations in the teenage years. Any of us parents that think that's not happening, we've got our heads in the sand. Okay, I've got two. I've got two teenage girls right now, but the social media piece and the phones. They're staying connected, and it's almost like some of them. It's like they're married. It's kind of like me, and when you think about like me and my wife. When we go to work, we have a little separation, and yeah, we might text here and there during the day. Usually, like, hey, who's picking up Hannah now, and whatever. But
Right.
we have a little bit of a break because I know I get on my wife's nerves. I'm a lot. I'm a lot to deal with. Whereas a lot of these younger teenage relationships, they are connected all the time. And so that's why we're seeing some of these teenage relationships become unhealthy. Um, and then that creates emotional issues and things like that. So I think that that's one of the great challenges that our children today are facing is this pressure of connection. And I'm gonna tell you, Adam, this year for our district, our middle school is we're not allowing cell phones any from the time school starts to the time it's over. Now we're not telling them they can't have them. We understand they've got them. They keep them in their bags and stuff like that. Our high school, we're not allowing the phones any except for during class change in the halls and at lunch. So it's a little more relaxed at the high school than it is the middle school. I'm going to tell you, we're seeing great things. We're not seeing pushback from the kids. We're not seeing pushback from our parents. At lunch at our middle school, we think about, you think about, well, lunch, what do they do after they get done eating? Because used to, they were on the phone and they were scrolling and stuff. We've got good old fashioned games, card games, board games, and they're doing that. And what it's doing is it's making them be more social with each other and not be so glued into the phone. And we've actually had some kids, some of our teenagers tell our administrators, I didn't think I was going to like this, but I don't feel that need to check the group text and see if I'm being talked about or
Mm,
see if there's something I missed. They don't feel that pressure. So I believe that we're making some good decisions in education right now about the cell phones and about that piece of it. And I think a lot of parents are like me and thinking this is probably a good thing because when they're 22, 23 years old and the workforce, they're not going to be able to be so glued into a phone all day long. If you're working for Ford Motor Company and you're on the line, you can't be on your phone. You can't have an AirPod in listening to music and stuff like that. And so in education, when we think about making sure that we're preparing our young teenagers for young adulthood, I think this is a step in the right direction. Not saying we're telling them they can't have them in their bags and emergencies come up. There's health situations that come up and we've got to work through that. But I
mhm,
really like where we're going. So I think that that's a major but I think the social media side is a major challenge for our kids today. Um the second thing that I think is a challenge for our kids, and look, I'm a parent, I'm guilty of it at times, is the rescue mentality. It's
mhm,
we as parents, man, we don't want our kids to struggle. I don't. Both my kids play sports. It kills me to see them struggle. It kills me to see them strike out. It kills me on that piece of it. But I also know they need to experience that. We all grow when we experience some level of failure. And I think that really as parents, we it's hard. It's hard, but we really have to help our kids embrace what I call and what a lot of people call productive struggle.
mm,
Because none of us got to where we're at by everything just going according to plan.
right.
We've all taken a punch to the mouth, well, not literally, but we've gotten knocked down, and our ability to succeed in life is how quick can we bounce back? How quick can we jump back up and get back after it? And I think that that's a challenge for our kids today because granted, in parents' defense, parents have seen their kids go through a lot, the pandemic and what that did to our kids as far as their emotional health and losing some of those social relationships and things like that. And so, man, I say this, and as a parent, my I had a first grader and a seventh grader when the pandemic hit,
Mm,
and talk about some tough years. First grade, you're really learning how to read. And now you're at home learning. And then seventh grade, all of us lived through seventh grade. I mean, it's tough. And
yep.
so I don't fault parents because I know we've seen our kids struggle with that. And so we wanna jump in, we want to rescue them and stuff like that. And really a lot of times the best thing we can do is we gotta let them struggle some and we gotta give them that guidance and help them figure out how to work through it themselves. But man, it's hard. It's hard to watch our kids struggle.
It is hard, but I love everything you're saying. That totally aligns with what we teach at TAAP, the Attitude Advantage program. It's yes, like you mentioned, parents, they want to make sure their kids are safe, make sure they're always going to be okay. But like you mentioned, sometimes they need to get thrown into that fire. They need to experience failure, and that is ultimately what's going to make them into the person they will be later on in life. Establishing that grit, like, resilience, and so like I love that you're a coach too. And you mentioned that, the sport aspect. I think that's another thing that we always preach is finding your tribe, finding your community, finding a sport, finding an instrument to play. It's so important for, and just the social aspect, like you mentioned, the pandemic really crushed that. I mean, how are you going to have a first grader stare at a screen for 5 hours and expect them to learn the same way? It's like, it's crazy. So, and then having to go through that and then get them get thrown back into school once the schools reopened. I mean, it's kids are afraid to go order a Starbucks. They don't even want to go out and speak. That it's so to have, the confidence building and all that. So we always are trying to get that. Find your tribe, find your community. You mentioned sports. I also coach. I'm a baseball coach. My stepson, he's 12, and so I love the sport aspect of it. What you say? You're a coach, right? What sports do you coach?
Well, so back years ago when I was teaching, I helped coach I was an assistant basketball coach,
Oh,
and
cool. Okay.
then when I moved into the administration role, I just didn't have the time to be able to coach. Now, both my daughters play softball, and we love it. And there's not a better weekend for me than sitting at that softball field and watching my girls play softball. And my oldest daughter, I always I would serve as an assistant coach on our travel teams because the assistant coach, that's the best job because if you need to miss practice because of work, you can do that. And I liked being the dugout coach. Like I didn't like coaching third base or first base because you get yelled at when you get somebody's darling thrown out, you're going to get yelled at. And sometimes it was my own wife that wasn't happy with me because I got her little darling thrown out. So I like the dugout where, I just make sure that they got their batting gloves and they got their helmet and stuff like that. That was the
Bench
best
coach, bench
bonding.
coach. Yeah, yeah.
But you mentioned coaching baseball, and there is nothing like seeing your child succeed on the baseball field or on the basketball court or in a chorus concert or a band concert. There's nothing like it. And there's nothing more gut wrenching than whenever they mess up. They hit the wrong note at the band concert, or they, do something silly on the baseball field. But it's all important. I mean, it's all part of it. And that's why you mentioned getting involved in something. It doesn't have to be sports. It can be archery. It can, we in our district, we've got kids that enjoy archery. They enjoy shooting, shooting targets. Our JROTC program, being a part of something and having that feeling that responsibility to your team and to the people around you, that's huge. But other areas, coming out of the pandemic, what's something that we've all been facing in all public schools? Chronic absenteeism.
Mm,
Because for 2 years plus, we told everybody, if you got a sniffle, stay home. And we've not rebounded as quickly from that as that mentality as I'd hope we would. So we're really working hard to combat the chronic absenteeism because when we think about preparing our children for young adulthood, you got to go to work. You can't stay home with a sniffle. You can't stay home if you don't have a fever and, if you got allergies, you've always got a sniffle. Depending on where you live. I live in the Ohio Valley here in Kentucky. I mean, it's the sinus capital of the world, I think. So, we're slowly bringing that back. And I do believe that parents understand that. I think so. And so what I say is never meant to be attacking any of our parents because hand up, I'm one of them. I mean, I want to jump in and save my daughters all the time. I don't want them to ever hurt or anything like that.
of course.
But I understand. I'll give you a great example. I got a seventh grader. What's really important for seventh graders? Not eating lunch by themselves, having a friend at lunch. First day of school this year, my daughter's like, "I don't know anybody at lunch." What's the first thing that as a parent you think about? Well, why they put her in that lunch group? Maybe I can get her in a different one. But then you know what we told her? Make new friends.
Yeah.
Make more friends.
Yeah.
That's a valuable lesson in life. Yeah, it stinks. I mean, it stinks that you don't have any of your really good close buddies, but it's also an opportunity. And so on day two, whenever I asked, "Hey, did you eat lunch today by yourself?" She looked at me like I was crazy and said, "Well, no, so and so ate with me." Perfect. So I had to get past that initial gut feeling of, I want to reach in and save her. I don't want her to be sad at lunch. I don't want to be by herself at lunch. I had to get past that, and I had to make her work it out and figure it out. And she did, thankfully.
Great. Yeah, that's awesome. I tell my stepson the same thing. He was complaining in the beginning of the school year, and I'm telling him like this is why it's so important for you to be in school, buddy. You're learning the social skills to make new friends. It's going to be the same way when you get out of school, and that you. So I want to transition and ask you this. You mentioned parents worrying about their teens for their life after high school. What would be one maybe just piece of advice you would give to parents? Their teens about to leave high school, maybe they're going to be going to college or work or whatever that is, what would be the one piece of advice that you would give them based on what you see in your schools every day?
That's a great question. I would say really focus on the self help piece, really helping them, especially whenever our teenagers when they get into high school and they start advancing through the high school years, do they have a checking account? You
Mm,
know, and if they don't, that's fine, but maybe consider starting a checking account. And of course, you're on it, and with online banking today you can set it up where you get notifications and stuff like that. You don't have to you can put limits on the debit card. But when we think about as they start going through those high school years, what's some of the things that we can do to help prepare them for those young adult years? And it's that self-help. Do they do their own laundry? Um, you know, and not saying that you don't ever do their laundry, but do they know how? And maybe you're helping them do their laundry, but they fold the clothes. And so I think that just I know that sounds minor, but it's
hmm
really important. Whenever if they're going to go to college, whenever they start that process, who's signing them up who's applying for college? Are you filling out the applications? Or
hmm
are they doing it while you're helping them and giving them guidance and stuff like that? When there's a question about their dual credit, their college credit hours that they're taking at the high school, does that transfer to the school they want to go to? Well, who's
hmm
looking that up? Them
Right.
or you? Or who's going to email the admissions counselor at the school? I'm not saying you don't do it, but make them do it from their email address while you sit there and help them and guide them. And I'm saying all this, and that takes a lot of time. And a lot of our parents, you're working 9 to 5, 40 plus hours a week, trying to make sure there's dinner on the table, trying to make sure everybody's at every spot. I get it.
hmm
It's hard to do, and you can't always do it every time. But maybe if you're strategic about it, hey, local scholarship applications are coming up. I'm not doing them for you, but if you'll bring home the list, we'll sit down together. We'll get a game plan, and in a week, I want you to check back in with me, and let's talk about where you're at. I think that is the best gift that we can give our children, our teenagers, as they're going through those high school years, is really working through the self help piece. Um, and it's hard. It's hard because a lot of times as a parent, we're busy, and it'd just be quicker and easier if we did it ourselves. You know, and we don't
Yep.
have to listen to them complain, and the drill. But in the long run, you're going to be glad that you did it because you know the monitoring social media, you know, would you rather monitor it now whenever they're a teenager and living in your house and you're paying for the phone and you have control? Or
hmm
would you rather let them just go and now they're 75 miles away from you as an 18-year-old in college and there's been no monitoring and they're just turned loose? So
hmm
it's kind of like, do we want to tackle some of that stuff early on, or do you want to wait and see if it's a problem? Me, I'm trying to be proactive. I want to I want to try to build those self help skills. And listen, I can't take all credit. My wife's incredible. She's a big believer in self help. She's a preschool teacher, so
Mhm.
she believes in from an early age building those self help skills of being able to what are we doing in preschool where we're teaching our preschoolers to carry their own lunch tray, put their
Mhm.
own number in, be able to play with each other and socialize with each other, take turns. We think about those things. Well, as they're going through the school years and getting older,
Mhm.
those self help skills are increasing over time, and we should be teaching our kids in those high school years to be able to do their own laundry and to be able to m- manage the responsibility of having a debit card. They don't have to know that we've got $100 limit on it. You know what I'm saying? But we those are the things that are it's going to help them be successful young adults.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I love everything you're saying. I think I just lost you. I don't know if maybe did your phone there you go, got you back.
Pretty good. Okay.
No, I think I love everything you're sharing. That's it's so important, the independence and to give our kids that feeling of they need to be able to do it on their own to get that confidence. Because yes, a parent as a parent, you're always going to be in their corner. You're always going to support them, but you can't coddle them for too long. You need to throw them out there, and they need to get that experience. So I totally am on board with everything you're saying. It's incredible. You have a lot of great just experience, not obviously as a parent, but all the different jobs you've held up the ranks here in the school district. And so I wanted to ask you just a couple more questions here, and then we'll let you get going. Looking ahead, I see that you were recently appointed the governing board of the American Association of School Administrators. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yes. So what are some like insights that you're gaining at that level that you want to bring back to your school in Kentucky? And just, I guess, what do you see as like the vision for the future of the education system in Kentucky? I don't know if you have any programs or initiatives or things that you've created that you can share that are kind of shaping the education system now for you today.
Well, again, a great question, Adam. You know, this is excuse me, I've been in public education now for a little over 20 years, and I have never believed in it more than I do right now. I've always believed in it, but I love the direction that we're heading in the public education world. Very focused on graduation rates. We're focused on transition readiness rates, which is, after school, are our students prepared to be successful in career or in college in that side of things? We're very focused on career pathway opportunities at the high school level. So making sure that our kids at the high school are able to maybe glue into a pathway. And the great thing about that is if you're if you're interested in it, then you're going to be more engaged. And that's really important. We've also moved in a really great direction in public ed around co-op and work-based learning, where as our students get older in the high school years, they have opportunities to go out and work and do work-based learning opportunities, which is more engaging. And also it helps our local community because our local communities have been struggling with workforce demands. A lot of our local businesses here in Breckinridge County, they love our high school kids that are going out and working during the day. They're great workers. They're glad to be there. They're glad for the opportunity. I've had multiple business owners tell me that their best workers are high school kids who are going out and doing it. So really excited about that piece of it. I think that just really on the national end, being a part of the AASA governing board, it's opened me up to get to know other superintendents from around the country. And what I found is it doesn't matter, like the politics are politics, but it doesn't matter whether you are a superintendent in a red state, a blue state, or a purple state. We all have the same challenges. We all have the same children. Our children have the same needs, and we all want the same for our children, whether they're in a politically red state, politically blue, or politically purple state. That's been really interesting for me to just have that opportunity to learn about what those states, are going through, and it's the same challenges. We all have funding challenges. We all need more revenue. We all are working to try to address the teenage mental health crisis going on in America right now. It's an epidemic. We're all trying to combat learning loss from the pandemic. It's going to take it's a decade. Coming out of the pandemic, recovering from the pandemic is a decade long commitment. And you think about that. We're 5 years removed from the start of the pandemic.
Mhm.
And we did. I mean, our children, they suffered tremendous learning loss. That honestly should be no surprise to anyone. I mean, you've never a screen never can replace the benefits of having a teacher in the classroom. And so we're now, I really feel like 5 years removed from the start of the pandemic. And I really think that we've really gotten our heads wrapped around the emotional needs and that's coming from the effects of the pandemic. And now I think what you're seeing, what us parents are seeing, is we're seeing the schools really be able to dive into the learning loss and what do we need to do to recover. And some are recovering faster than others. But let's be honest here. We're at a war against poverty in America. Lyndon Baines Johnson declared war on poverty in the 1960s, and we've been fighting that war ever since. And there's no question, children who grow up in poverty, it they have more challenges to be able to get to be able to get the American dream. I don't know what I'm trying to say there. Sorry. Our kids in poverty have more challenges, and our kids that are growing up in stronger socioeconomic status homes, they it's not saying they don't have challenges. They just don't have the same challenges. My two daughters are very blessed to have grown up in a strong middle class home. They don't have the challenges that children in poverty have had to go through. And I call it they are part of the haves of society. And there's nothing wrong with that. We need to, in education, we need to serve those children and help them just take off and go and do what they can do. But the pandemic really it was hard on all kids, but our kids living in poverty that maybe they didn't have high quality internet access. Um, Maybe they didn't have a parent that was able to be at home all the time to help them with their schoolwork. It really widened the gap between those children. And so in ed what we're doing in public education right now is we're trying to help all kids recover from that era. And it's challenging and it's hard, but it's the right work. It's what we've got to do because it's worth it, man. I'm telling you, our teenagers today, unbelievable. Unbelievable. They are resilient. They can adapt to anything. It's amazing to see how adaptable they are. They have this strong sense of awareness. Just
Mm.
they're very socially aware. They're more engaged than ever before. They're they they feel more passionate about fairness and making sure everybody has an equal opportunity. Um, I know sometimes we hear about, oh, their work ethic. No, I think they've got really good work ethic. They want to be involved. They want to make a difference. They're extremely creative and innovative, and families are more engaged today in public education than ever before in my time working in public ed, and that's amazing. So
It is,
I
yeah.
think that I think this is a real exciting time. Yes, we have challenges and we're still working through those challenges, but this is an exciting time and I'm excited to see what the next 5 years is going to be. I think it's going to be great.
Nick, I love everything you're sharing. You have such a great attitude about it, and it's you're right. I mean, we have to have kind of faith in the teens today, and we have to believe in them. And it is a difficult time, but it's not impossible. And and it sounds like you're doing some amazing things in your community to instill these right things in younger people to get them to have the best chance to succeed in life. So Nick, I appreciate everything you shared today. I just have one final question. We like to ask our guests the last question of the show. If you could go back to the younger teenage version of yourself, 13, 14, maybe you're just starting high school, 15, and you could go stand in front of your teen version of yourself and give that young version of you one piece of advice or one word of wisdom, what would it be?
Oh, first, listen to my mother more. Because at the time, she was right, and I actually apologized to my mother when I was about 22 years old. I said, "Mom, you were so right. I don't know
Yep.
what I was thinking."
Mom is
And,
always right. Mom is always
yeah,
right.
yeah. But, but mainly, I would tell my early teenage self, lose the chip on your shoulder, see the good and the positive in the world, and be involved. Get involved. I was not involved as much as I needed to be, and should have been, and so there were some life lessons that I probably missed out on because I didn't get involved in as many things as I should have gotten involved in, and there were reasons for that, and stuff, but I think that I would tell my younger self to, join whatever, join the chess club and, get out and do some volunteer hours, and just really get involved. And also have more confidence in myself and in my abilities that I can do it. So that's probably what I'd tell myself. But I'd also tell myself, listen to your mom better.
Love that, Nick. Nick, thank you so much again for your time today. Really appreciate everything you're sharing. I feel like all your practices and things you're doing are completely aligned with what we're trying to put out there in our programs. So again, thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thanks so much, Adam, and thank you to all the parents out there. You are rock stars. You're doing a good job, and keep up the good work. And I appreciate you all letting us in public education have the privilege of educating your children. Thank you.
Love it.